Hi, and welcome back. I have some information that we're going to cover today. This is one of my favorite practices that we get to play with, and that's the blend mode. We'll be on note 5 for today. I would highly recommend you looking at this. What I've done before I went live is I've downloaded the graphic here by just clicking on it, and it'll automatically download, and then download the black and white photo. And later on, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn a black and white photo into this right here. It is really slick on how you can do that. It's kind of amazing, sometimes black and white does a really good job, and sometimes just adding a little bit of color just makes all the difference in the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up those two files that I just downloaded. So we're going to go File, Open, and they're right next to each other. So I'm going to hold down the Control key and click both of them. One is black dash white PSD, and the other one is blend mode.psd. And we just click on Open. Let's move this stuff around. Now what you should notice is I have two layers. This layer and this layer. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be showing the interaction of the different blend modes between these colors and the background. And the keyword is between the background, so I'm going to go up here and go to dissolve. Now once you've done it once, you'll notice that I've got this blend mode selected right there, and you got a little and you really can't tell much of a blend mode, but when I use the down arrow or change the setting here with darken, you can see a little bit of difference. So these are the interactions that are going on with the different settings. So this is screen, this is color dodge, this is linear dodge, lighter color, overlay, which is one of my favorites, soft spotlight, hard light, vivid light, pin light, no, don't use that very often, difference not very often, exclusion sometimes, divide, hue, saturation, color, luminosity. Oops, that's as far as we can go. And then we can go back up with using the up arrow and down arrow on the keyboard of your computer. Now like I said, this is the interaction between this layer and this layer. So if I turn this off, it doesn't matter what the blend mode is, nothing's going to change because it has nothing to blend with, pretty much is the best way to describe it. So I've got a blend mode, I have to have a background that I'm going to interact with it. And once I've got that, then I can up arrow or down arrow to get the different interactions. And this will make a little bit more sense when we go through the practice. So what we want to do is we want to convert our black and white photo into a color photo. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add a bunch of layers. Now this is going to be one of those tricky things because you got to remember how to do this right, and I always mess it up usually the first time, so I'm going to try to be real careful. But I'm going to do new layer, and I'm going to call it gold. Now just because I call the layer gold doesn't mean it automatically is going to be gold. I have to tell it what to be gold, and then I color it for you. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use that quick select tool, and I am just going to click and drag because I want this pole to be gold. I'm going to drag it down that way and drag it up that way. Got a little bit of her finger, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow it up just a tad bit so I can see what I'm doing right in that area. And then I'm going to come back to that quick select tool, go right there, go right there. Oop, don't like that. So now I'm going to subtract a little bit because I don't want her finger. Get right there, get right there. And then I don't want this section. right there, up right there. This is where it can get a little tricky too, by the way, because of what you're seeing. And I didn't do as good a job as I thought I did. I got a bunch of stuff here that I don't want. So I got to be careful, and once again I did a bit too much on that side. And then I'm going to have to add it back in with the selection. And if I have to, I can just paint it in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pick a gold, but I need to know what the gold settings are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this color using RGB, which obviously is red, green, blue. Where I'm going to get my settings is from my notes page right here. So my gold, the R is going to be 203, the G is going to be 148, and then the 19. So, man, I've already forgot what the settings were. 203, I think. 148. 203. 148. Ooh, that's looking good on the gold. And the final setting was 19. So this is going to be the new color. So I click on OK. Now I'm going to use my paint bucket tool. Oops. And the paint bucket tool is now hiding behind the gradient tool. So I'm going to have to right click here and select paint bucket. And then I'm going to come right up here, click it like that, and it looks like garbage. Oh, it really looks like garbage there. I'm going to do a control 1 or control 0. Yeah, control 0 works better. Well, what we're going to do is we're now going to play with the blend mode because obviously we don't like its interaction. It's going to be overlay, and we want it to be at an opacity of 75. So I'm going to come up here and go double click and go 75. Look a little better. And I'm going to select overlay. And now it looks like a gold post. Well, then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the trumpet. Now the trumpet gets a little hard, and sometimes you may end up painting instead of just using the quick select tool. It really is kind of a tough one to do, but it's the reason we selected it is so you can get a feel for how to actually use this tool. And I'm going to do it a little bit bigger, control plus, and then I'm going to click right down there. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller and try my best. Oops, didn't quite make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract, and then I'm just going to paint right away, and we can come back later and clean it up a little bit more. Nah, I'm just going to hit gold. Now, since I've already done the overlay and everything else, the opacity, it looks pretty good. So now I'm going to do Control D. And this is one of those times where it really pays off to do it in small little areas. Otherwise, you're going to end up making a mistake, and then you have to kind of start over from scratch, almost, especially with this little thing. I don't like that. See, it's really hard. You know, I'm going to do something now. I wanted to make sure that this is the truth to where it says sample all layers. If it didn't sample all layers, I would get a horrible selection because I would be selecting this. And I forgot to point that out to you. Shame on me. So make sure it says sample all layers. And then I'm going to come back here and make it a little bit smaller. Oh, got a little bit too much on that one. Oh man, I'm doing a horrible job. Woo! Control Alt Z, Control Alt Z, Control Alt Z. So what I may end up doing is just actually painting it in. Now notice once I have something selected, I can't paint out here because of one major reason. It's not in that selection area, but I can paint right there. I'm going to do Control D. And if I had to, I could just slowly do it that way, but that is tedious. But sometimes it's just so hard to do it. This also might be one of those cases where you want to use the magnetic lasso tool, depending on how much problems you have. Notice how it's snapping on this a little bit better because I can, oh man, my stupid mouse. There we go. Now I'm gonna click and then I'm gonna come down here and go up this way. So it's actually a magnetic lasso tool. It's doing a little bit better job. I'm still having some problems right around there. Also with the magnetic lasso tool, if I want to add an extra click to tell it to sample there because I'm making a drastic change, then it works really nice. And I'm gonna come down here. And even though I've already colored this area, it doesn't really matter. And I am going to end that. And notice when I get to that one selection box, I get a little O around there. That's going to allow me to complete my selection, and then I can just come back here with a paintbrush or paint bucket, sorry, and it fills it in. So this is one of those cases where the quick select tool is not necessarily the best tool to use. You want to get in a feel for it and so you understand which ones work the best. And sometimes even painting it and just getting it up to the pixel. But that's, to be honest with you, way too detailed for me sometimes. Now, some of the other things I wanted to point out, I'm going to go back to Control 0. This is my other favorite mistake, is I forget to add new layers. And I'm going to do red now, like this. And what I'm going to do is use my quick select tool. I'm going to select red. It will allow me to select down when I use the quick select tool because I've got the sample all layers. I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger, like that. And I don't have to be perfect. Now this color of red is going to be really a pain. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so I can go down like that. I've got a little bit too much, but I can come back and erase it on that layer. I can click there, click there. I'm going to have to polish that up later on. I'm going to click right there, click right there. Now notice I didn't get this red and this red because from experience I know that, it's just a pain in the buns, and I may have to do that with the the magnetic lasso tool. So once again, I'm going to want to change the red. So I'm going to click right here to get my color wheel, and I'm going to change the RGB. And obviously, since it's red, it's going to be heavier R than G and B. Well, the settings for the red is going to be 212, 27, 27. There we go. 212, 27. So we're getting a nice rich red. 27. Click on OK. Use my paint bucket. Bam. I love doing it. I feel like Emerald doing it. Bam! I've got my magic going. Now red, I'm going to use a blend mode of color and an opacity of 30. So yeah, it is a little bit too bright right there. So I am first going to change the opacity up here. 30. You know what? I thought that was a little bit too low, so I'm going to change that to maybe like 45. Gets me a little more richer red. And then the blend mode, instead of normal, I'm going to go all the way down the color. And there we got a nice little blend mode. and I'm going to deselect, and then now I can spend a lot of time focusing on this little area here. So I'm going to use my blow up, come on, and then slide over here, down here, and then I can try it with the quick select tool. I know I'm not going to get that with the quick select tool, but I might be able to get this with the quick select tool. So I'm going to go here, way too big. Oh yeah, there we go. And like I said before, we're probably going to want to use the magnetic lasso tool with this. So I can just get around her hair, click right there. And notice that I forgot to deselect that other area. That's no big deal. Because it's not going to make it any bigger. There we go. I get that little circle. Come back here. Voila. And then obviously I'm going to have to deselect, so I do a Control D. Now with this little area here, I can actually use a paintbrush. I'm not worried about getting out of the area, and I just come in back there and highlight a little bit more. Back to Control 0. So you kind of got a feel for how to do it. This is going to be the green, this is going to be the cyan. The one that's going to be really tough is going to be the blue. Now this is another one of the tricks that I've done in the past. I'm going to use my quick select tool. Click like that, click like that, click like that. Notice how it selects all the stars. And this one, sometimes I cheat by just doing a big. Now I could paint in here white. That's going to be the problem. What I'm going to do, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to come back here and do some more stars. Now I don't want to be limited to painting in here, so I'm going to do a little trick here. I am going to do the inverse. Now it's selected the whole thing, so I don't want to use the paint bucket, but what I can do is quick and dirty. My paintbrush, I'm going to make this baby really big so that I can go like, wrong color, Control Z. I got to add my new layer. I'm going to do blue this time, so I go new layer, blue, making sure I'm on the blue layer. And then what I want to do is I want to make sure I have the blue color. It's going to be color also, I believe, for the blend mode. Blue, yeah, 22, 22, 193. Just click on it right there. 22, 22, 193. On OK. And now I can just start painting on that. Now I don't want to get too close to anything right there. I'll work on that later. Oops. That's why you do short strokes, especially around something where you're going to possibly make a mistake. I'm still missing some because that's way too blue. I'm missing color, and then I wonder if I did the right settings, because that's 22, 22, 193. Yep. And you get the general idea right there. And then as I am getting closer, I can use that. And let me finish painting over that area right there, and then I can deselect. Like I said, this is going to be very time consuming because I'm going to have to add those stars again and do the exactly what I did. Oh, I know what I'm missing, because I was thinking that's way too bright of a blue. I'll be willing to bet you money that I don't have the right opacity. And then once again, I can do the quick select tool around this so I can not get my trumpet. But I just wanted to give you a feel for how to do that. Like I said, it's one of those things that takes some time doing. But you know, I have to change my opacity, and that opacity needs to be, for blue, 30. I do like that color of blue, by the way, but oops, 3 is not going to work. But how about that for 30% opacity? Now look at the color that we have. I'm going to do Control D to deselect that. I'm also going to do a Control 0 to get it right there. So that I'm showing you how to do some of the quick trips. Now obviously you're going to have to do the hat and play around with this, but that's just doing more of what we just did, on spending a whole lot of time, and I don't want to force you to sit and watch this. That's why we're doing that. Now the last thing I want to show you, and then we're going to call it a day for notes, is the Lion King assignment. So what you're going to do is, this is the assignment you're going to do your best to recreate, and I want to get it as close as possible to this. And one of the tricks that I want to do, that I do want to show you, and I forgot to do this, silly me, is I'm going to download the lion.psd. I'm going to have to download that, right click, same image as, and all these others. But I do want to point out, you need to pay attention to, there's our big cat right there. Also notice the text. It's 2 lines of text and then it copies itself. So what you're going to want to do is, inside Photoshop, you're going to want to come in here. I've done a good enough job on this, so I'm going to go File, Save, and yes, I'm going to do maximum capability, and I am going to close it. And shame on me, I committed mortal sin. I should have saved it as a different file name. But now I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to look for Lion. There's that my kitty, so I'm going to hold that down. And where's my lion.psd? Oh, you know what? I saved it into the wrong folder. Shame on me. I was afraid I might do that. So let me do that again. I'm going to right click, go Save Link As, so I can tell it where I want it to save it. Now it's going to be saved in Photoshop instead of the downloads. Now I can find it. So let's go File, Open. Oh, it's King PSD. No wonder I didn't see it. Open. So So notice that I've got a couple different layers. Now the first thing you want to do before you get too far along is you want to make sure that you get the right special effects for the font. So you might want to have an inner glow, an outer glow, and play with it until it looks a little bit like it was before. Just for grins, I'm going to go file, open, get my cat, my other cat, my lion right here, go OK. And then just like we've been doing on every assignment, I'm going to click and drag it up here, and I'm going to drag it down here. And then obviously I want him to be at the very bottom. The reason I did that is so you can actually see what that looks like. Oops, didn't go far enough, so I'm going to go a little bit farther. There we go. So that you can tell the difference. Now I'm going to want you to apply those same special effects to each one of those, and then you're also going to want to make it a little bit lighter. I want you to watch this little thing. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I can't see it very well. There we go. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to drag the special effects down to here like that. What I just did is I copied that effect that I put on this one right here. So once I get an effect that I like, I might want to actually select both of these and apply this. I might want to change the opacity because I think the opacity is a little bit different. Actually, I know it is, but I just wanted to show you that this is something you're going to have to do. We'll get the opacity to where you think it's right. You got these two, and then what you can do is you can link these two together. This is another one of those tricks that you can do by clicking right here, and that links those two together. Now watch this trick. I'm going to hold down my Alt key, and I'm going to drag it down or drag it up. Nope, let's go down. And what I just did is I made a duplicate of that, and then with my Move key, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to there we go, Alt key again, drag it down like that, drag it down like that. That's a little trick on how to do the homework. A little more than I usually show in class, but I usually have a lot of questions. Now obviously clipping mask, like I showed you last week, is going to be done on this. You probably want to make that a little bit bigger. And then the other thing you might want to do with this king is play around with the font a little bit, because notice it's a little bit farther away. What you can do is you can double click on that, and then you can play with the character panel. And then this character panel I'm going to show you more next week, but I just wanted to give you kind of a feel for how to do this homework assignment, or next class I should say. So that's what I wanted to show you today, so thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please remember, send me an email. Don't call me. You're not going to get a hold of me if you try to call me. It's so much easier, unless you call my secretary, and then she'll track me down. She does a wonderful job, both Shoshana and Mary. So thank you. Bye.